Good morning and welcome back. You're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. Poland's Defense Minister Władyslaw Kosiniak-Kamysz has arrived in Kyiv, where he has met his Ukrainian counterpart, Denys Shmyhal, during a fact-finding mission following last week's Russian drone incursion of Polish airspace. The two officials laid wreaths at a monument to those Ukrainians who lost their lives in Russia's war of aggression. Shmyhal later showed the Polish defense minister around an exhibition that showcases the destruction of Mariupol by Russian forces and compares it to the devastation wrought by the Nazis on Warsaw during World War II. According to Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, Ukraine will share their country's experience in countering Russian air attacks with high-level Polish military officials. Today's meeting was announced after 21 Russian drones entered Polish airspace last week. It was the first time Polish and NATO jets had shot down Russian UAVs since Moscow's forces invaded Ukraine in 2022. Kosiniak-Kamysz and Shmyhal are due to hold a joint press conference at Ukraine's Ministry of Defense later today. 6 people were wounded after a Russian drone struck a gas station in Ukraine's Poltava region. The strike also sparked a fire and caused damage to nearby cars, the gas station building itself, and the station's equipment. The 6 wounded include 5 drivers and a cashier who happened to be on the shift at the station. Shortly after the attack took place, Ukrainian rescuers, pyrotechnicians, and dog handlers arrived at the scene. As announced by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, the fire has now been extinguished and the area cleared from debris. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that so far Ukraine had secured over $2 billion in financing for U.S.-made weapons via NATO's prioritized Ukraine requirements list program. Speaking during a press conference, Zelensky also said that the first supplies under the program will include missiles for Patriot air defense systems and HIMARS launchers.
We received more than $2 billion from our partners under the prioritized Ukraine requirements list program. During October, I think we will receive an extra funding. I think we will have in total around $3.5 to $3.6 billion. Regarding the first 2 packages, each worth $500 million. I understood you asked what those packages will include. I will not disclose all the details, but they will definitely include missiles for Patriot and HIMARS systems.
What we're witnessing now is NATO 3.0, said the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, in yesterday's interview with the Latvian media. While in Riga, Stubb also asked if the Article 5 of the alliance is still as ironclad as in the past.
Stronger than ever before. I think right now, if we look at the operational planning, if we look at the commitments, if we look at the capabilities, and compare them to what they were, say, in the 1990s, it's completely next level. What we're witnessing now is NATO 3.0. I have not seen any disengagement of the United States of America from Article 5. We continue to have a very close transatlantic partnership with the United States, both bilaterally through our Defense Cooperation Agreement, DCA, and then, of course, through the alliance and NATO.
If one can be certain of anything when it comes to Donald Trump's foreign policy approach, is ambiguity. Supporters argue Trump is playing 3-dimensional chess. Many others switch off. But maybe despite the bluster and contradictions, he is simply delivering on what he promised, doing everything to avoid World War III.
Donald Trump likes to boast about his successes, both real and imagined.
I stopped 7 wars. I settled 7 wars.
I settled 7 wars.
7 wars. 7 wars.
It's not entirely clear which wars Trump takes credit for ending, but the war in Ukraine and the Israeli offensive in Gaza still rage, 9 months after he took office, vowing to end them quickly.
I thought this was going to be an easy one for me, but this has turned out to be tough. The hatred between Zelensky and Putin is unfathomable.
Threats toward one side, red carpets rolled out for the other. Neither has moved the needle. The battlefront in Ukraine is largely frozen. and Russian drones and missiles continue to strike Ukrainian cities. Despite early transatlantic rifts over aid for Ukraine beginning to close, Trump remains far from delivering on his repeated threats to hit Russia with tougher sanctions. Instead, he keeps finding new reasons not to.
Europe they're my friends, but they're buying oil from Russia. So we can't be expected to be the only ones that are, full bore.
When Russian drones violated Polish airspace last week, European NATO allies responded forcefully, sending additional planes and equipment. Leaders condemned Moscow's provocation. Even Hungary, often aligned with Russia, criticized the Kremlin this time. The US president saw it differently.
Could have been a mistake.
Critics warn that such ambiguity plays straight into Putin's hands.
It's a blatant test of it, and right now we're not passing that test.
But not everyone sees caution as weakness. US envoy Keith Kellogg recently argued that Trump's approach is keeping pressure on Moscow without letting the conflict spiral out of control, insisting that
Russia is in fact losing this war.
And Secretary of State Marco Rubio reminds everyone that the key still lies with the American president.
He's the only leader in the world that can talk to both the Ukrainians, the Europeans, and also to the Russians.
Next week, Trump is set to meet Ukraine's president again, after the Kremlin announced that a trilateral summit with Putin is off the table.
China is open to discussions about admitting new members to the G20. The declaration was delivered by the spokesman for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Thursday. The development comes right after China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Poland earlier this week. Wang Yi was to promise support for Poland's entry into the G20 group during a conversation with his Polish counterpart Radosław Sikorski. G20 is a group comprising 19 countries, the EU and the African Union. Its members account for approximately 85% of global GDP and 75% of global trade. Poland is the fastest expanding big economy in the world, and it could be expanding even more if its most important trading partners were also growing faster, said Polish Finance Minister Andrzej Domański in an interview with Die Welt, one of the biggest German dailies. The minister also stated that there is only one topic he would like to cover with his counterparts in the German government: investments. Domański said that German economy is very important for Poland. More than 1/4 of Polish exports go there, and that he still looks at German data to gauge how Polish businesses will be doing. He also touched on the search for making Europe more competitive, including deregulation and joint purchases of energy, the latter idea being floated in Brussels for years, never to materialize. Domański praised Chancellor Friedrich Merz's plan to invest more and pointed to Polish strategy of doing that as one of the factors in Polish success. A 21-year-old Ukrainian man will be deported from Poland and banned from entering the country for 5 years after flying a drone over sensitive sites in Warsaw. The incident took place on September 15th when a drone flew over a government building and the presidential palace before being detected and brought down by the Polish police. The 21-year-old Ukrainian was detained along with a 17-year-old Belarusian woman. She was questioned as a witness and later released. The Ukrainian man decided to cooperate with Polish authorities and was fined an equivalent of $1,115 and will be escorted to a border checkpoint for removal to Ukraine. While the main concern of Poles and Polish authorities was foreign espionage, a mobile device examination by the Polish Internal Security Agency showed no evidence of contact with foreign intelligence services. Hungarian MP Katalin Czech, speaking to TVP World, said that Hungarian public broadcaster was disseminating Russian propaganda when it came to Hungarian sentiment against Ukrainians. She shared her own experience from when the war broke out.
You know, when I'm thinking of this issue, I can't help but come back in my memories to the first days of the war when people were fleeing their homes only with a suitcase to the first safe point. We didn't reach them. And a lot of people came to Hungary from Ukraine. I was also at the border helping them, then later moved on to the western part of Ukraine up until Lviv. And I saw the desperation of the people. But I also saw how warmly the Hungarians have welcomed the newcomers, that entire villages camped on the border, making food, cooking tea, helping those who are fleeing war and desperation to shelter in the gyms of these towns, and it was really truly inspiring. And I think this is the true face of Hungarians. This is absolutely true that Russian propaganda has been plaguing Hungarian public discourse for, well, at least from the moment where the war broke out. But in my opinion, it started way before. It's Russian propaganda, just it's broadcasted in the Hungarian public broadcaster. The same lies, the same disinformation about Ukrainians shooting at themselves, that Ukraine is guilty of being attacked, that Ukraine is not a real nation.
Poland is calling on EU member states to cut Russian energy imports by the end of 2026. Slovakia's finance minister said earlier on Tuesday this won't be possible. The comment comes after calls from US President Donald Trump. Experts say his demands are unrealistic.
Poland was among the first EU countries to break free from Russian energy, and Polish Energy Minister Miłosz Motyka is now calling all EU countries to follow suit.
Today I have sent a letter to the energy ministers of the EU member states appealing to them to set a common goal to completely end imports of Russian oil by the end of 2026. This is a clear signal that Europe can act in solidarity and decisively in the face of Russian aggression.
Slovakia, however, insists it's not ready.
Before we can fully commit, we need to have the right conditions in place. Otherwise, we risk seriously damaging our industry and economy.
Sakova's statement comes after Donald Trump demanded that the EU meet new conditions for Washington to impose sanctions on Moscow. These include stopping the purchase of Russian oil and gas while increasing imports from the US. Slovakia and Hungary remain the only EU states still receiving Russian oil via pipeline. The neighbouring Czech Republic showed diversification is possible by connecting to the Italian port of Trieste. But analysts say it's not going to happen, not only because of construction-related constraints.
It's a big pipe to be laid down to some port in Europe to expand the capacity of imports. It would take a couple of years. Czech Republic done it in 3 years. So it would take a couple of years.
EU Energy Commissioner Dan Jorgensen said he will open talks with Hungary and Slovakia in the coming weeks under the Repower EU plan to phase out Russian energy. Brussels has already proposed legislation requiring all member states to end Russian energy imports by 2027.
France is experiencing traffic disruptions as unions hold a nationwide strike against the government's 2026 budget plan. According to authorities, today's protest will involve up to 800,000 people and will also affect schools and tourist sites. The protesting unions are angered by the new budget plan despite the new Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's pledge to abolish both the lifelong privileges of prime ministers and the plan to scrap 2 public holidays. The strike will see around 1/3 of French teachers walk out, 90% of pharmacies closed, and severe disruptions in the Paris metro where only 3 driverless lines will operate normally. In response to the protests, French authorities deployed over 80,000 additional police officers and gendarmes, backed by drones, water cannons, and armored vehicles. And so this would be all the latest news for now. Thank you very much for joining. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, and I hope to see you back for more news in just a moment.